There is a common misconception that power belongs to the loudest voice in the room, that success is reserved for those who demand attention, interrupt conversations, and make their presence known at all times. But what if I told you that real power, the kind that shifts culture, changes minds, and wins battles, is often held by those who choose silence over noise? Silence is not surrender. It is not weakness. It is a strategy. A woman who stays silent in the face of chaos isn't losing. She's watching, learning, and preparing. She understands that while noise may capture attention momentarily, it is wisdom that earns respect permanently. Consider this. When you speak all the time, your words lose value. But when you choose your moments wisely, people stop and listen. They lean in. They take you seriously because they know that what you are about to say matters. The greatest leaders in history, those who have shaped the world, were not always the loudest. They were the most intentional. They understood that battles are won not through arguments, but through action. Not by reacting to every challenge, but by responding when it truly matters. Silence is patience, and patience outlasts provocation. In the heat of any debate, the person who stays calm holds the power. The one who listens instead of reacting controls the room. The woman who speaks only when she is ready is the one who wins the loudest battles, not by shouting, but by standing firm in her strength. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world that rewards loud voices, quick responses, and constant visibility, staying silent can seem like passivity or even weakness. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful tools in leadership, negotiation, and personal growth. It is not a sign of surrender, it is a strategy. Those who understand the power of silence know that sometimes the most effective way to win a battle is not by raising their voice, but by choosing when and how to speak. Silence allows for observation. When someone remains quiet in a conversation, in a conflict, or in a moment of pressure, they gain an advantage that others often overlook. They listen, they watch, and they gather information. While others rush to speak, to argue, or to prove themselves, the silent observer takes in every detail: the tone, the emotions, the motivations behind the words being spoken. This understanding gives them control, allowing them to make informed decisions rather than emotional reactions. More often than not, people who speak too quickly find themselves regretting their words. In the heat of an argument, emotions take over and things are said that cannot be taken back. Those who master silence do not fall into this trap. They give themselves the time to process, to think critically, and to respond in a way that serves their purpose. Their words, when they finally choose to speak, carry weight because they are not impulsive. They are intentional, measured, and impactful. Another overlooked advantage of silence is the way it commands respect. In any discussion, the loudest person is not always the most powerful. In fact, those who constantly speak without thought often lose credibility. But when a person speaks sparingly, their words become valuable. People listen more closely to those who do not waste words, who choose to contribute only when it truly matters. The quiet person in the room may not dominate the conversation, but when they finally speak, everyone pays attention. Silence also has the power to make others uncomfortable. When people expect a reaction and do not get one, they start to question themselves. This is a technique used by some of the most successful leaders, negotiators, and public figures. By remaining silent after someone has spoken, they create space for reflection. The other person, unsure of what is going through their mind, often feels compelled to keep talking, revealing more information than they originally intended. In negotiations, this can be a game changer. The one who speaks the least often has the upper hand. Beyond conversation and conflict, silence is also a form of self-discipline. In moments of frustration, sadness, or anger, choosing silence over an emotional outburst is a sign of true strength. It allows for internal processing rather than external regret. It gives space for clarity rather than confusion. Those who master silence have a deeper sense of self-control, and with that control comes confidence. This does not mean that silence should be used to avoid speaking up when necessary. There are moments when voices must be heard, when speaking out is the right course of action. But what sets a strategic person apart is their ability to distinguish between the moments that require words and the moments that require restraint. They know that battles are not won by being the loudest in the room, but by being the most strategic. Ultimately, silence is not surrender. It is a choice, a tool, a weapon in the hands of those who understand its power. It creates space for thought, commands respect, and allows for control. In a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, those who know when to stay silent often have the greatest influence. Their words, when finally spoken, do not just add to the noise, they cut through it. In any discussion, debate, or conflict, people often believe that the one who argues the loudest, the longest, or the most aggressively is the one who wins. There is a natural tendency to think that proving a point, defeating an opponent verbally, or dominating a conversation is the key to influence. But real impact is not found in arguments. It is found in action. Words can be powerful, but without action, they are empty. True influence, leadership, and success come not from endless debates, but from the ability to create real change through action. It is easy to get caught up in the cycle of proving oneself through words. People argue to defend their ideas, to gain validation, or to convince others that they are right. But arguments, no matter how passionate or well articulated, rarely change minds. When people engage in heated debates, their primary focus is often on winning rather than understanding. In this dynamic, real progress is lost. No matter how compelling an argument may be, if it is not backed by action, it does not create lasting influence. Consider those who make the most impact in history, leadership, or even in everyday life. They are not the ones who spend their time arguing their point. They are the ones who take action. They do not need to constantly justify themselves through words because the results speak for them. People respect and follow those who lead by example, those who do the work rather than just talk about it. A person who argues about being a good leader does not inspire confidence, but one who consistently makes the right decisions and takes meaningful steps forward earns the trust of those around them. Action carries more weight than argument because it produces results. Words can be ignored, dismissed, or debated, but action is undeniable. It creates visible proof of ability, determination, and character. Someone who constantly argues about their work ethic, skills, or dedication may convince some people in the short term, but their actions will ultimately reveal the truth. If their words do not align with what they actually do, their credibility is lost. On the other hand, someone who simply focuses on taking action, delivering results, and proving themselves through effort will earn respect without the need for excessive words. Another key reason action is more powerful than argument is that it shifts energy toward progress rather than conflict. Arguments often drain energy, create tension, and divide people rather than bringing them together. They create an atmosphere where the goal becomes to win rather than to create meaningful change. Action, on the other hand, leads to solutions. When a problem arises, the one who takes action to fix it is the one who makes the biggest impact, not the one who spends the most time arguing about why it happened or whose fault it was. This principle applies in all areas of life, from leadership and business to personal relationships. In the workplace, employees who argue about their skills or complain about unfair treatment without demonstrating results are often overlooked. But those who take initiative, solve problems, and show their value through action become indispensable. In relationships, trust and respect are built not through promises and justifications, but through consistent actions that prove commitment, reliability, and integrity. At the core of this idea is the simple truth that people believe what they see, not just what they hear. Arguments may create momentary victories, but action builds a reputation. A person who continuously proves themselves through actions earns lasting influence, while one who relies solely on words risks being seen as all talk and no substance. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, it is easy to assume that speaking louder, arguing better, or making the strongest case is the way to gain influence. But the most powerful individuals are those who let their actions speak for them. They understand that impact is not measured in how well they can argue, but in what they actually accomplish. While others are busy debating, they are busy doing. And in the end, it is those who take action who truly make a difference. Listening is one of the most underrated yet powerful skills a person can develop. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, to share their opinions, and to make their voices heard, the ability to truly listen sets people apart. It is not just a passive act of hearing words. It is an intentional skill that builds trust, deepens understanding, and creates influence. Those who master the art of listening hold a quiet power that allows them to lead, connect, and succeed in ways that many overlook. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. They wait for their turn to speak, formulating their next argument while the other person is still talking. This kind of listening does not create connection, it creates competition. The difference between hearing and listening is attention. When someone truly listens, they absorb not just the words, but the meaning behind them. They notice the emotions, the pauses, and what is not being said. This level of awareness allows them to respond in ways that are thoughtful, strategic, and meaningful. One of the greatest advantages of being a strong listener is that it builds trust. People want to feel heard. When someone listens without interrupting, without immediately offering solutions or judgments, they create a space where others feel valued. In leadership, this is critical. Employees are more likely to follow leaders who listen to their concerns and ideas. In relationships, whether personal or professional, being a good listener strengthens bonds and creates mutual respect. The simple act of giving someone undivided attention can make them feel important, which in turn strengthens influence. Beyond trust, listening provides knowledge. Information is power, and those who listen gain more of it than those who dominate conversations. The best negotiators, leaders, and problem solvers are the ones who gather as much information as possible before making decisions. Instead of rushing to speak or argue their point, they listen first. They learn what motivates people, what concerns them, and what opportunities exist. With this understanding, they are able to craft responses and solutions that are far more effective than if they had spoken without first taking in all the information. Another powerful aspect of listening is that it disarms conflict. When emotions run high, people often just want to be heard. Arguments escalate when both sides are talking, but neither is truly listening. However, when one person actively listens, the dynamic shifts. It allows for de-escalation, for the other person to feel acknowledged, and for a conversation to move toward resolution rather than further conflict. The most skilled communicators know that sometimes the best way to win an argument is not to argue at all, but to listen until the other person feels understood. Listening also creates opportunities. The person who talks the most in a room may get attention, but the person who listens the most gains the most insight. They pick up on details others miss, they notice patterns, and they see possibilities that might otherwise go unnoticed. This is especially true in leadership, business, and negotiations. The ability to listen carefully can lead to better decisions, stronger strategies, and greater success. Perhaps the greatest impact of being a great listener is that it cultivates influence. People respect those who make them feel heard. They are drawn to those who understand them. A leader who listens is a leader who inspires loyalty. A friend who listens is a friend who is valued. A professional who listens is a professional who is trusted. In every area of life, listening is a superpower that builds meaningful connections and lasting impact. In a world where everyone wants to be the loudest, those who listen have the real advantage. They understand more, they influence more, and they lead with greater strength. Listening is not just a skill, it is a form of quiet power that separates the good from the great. Those who master it do not need to fight for attention or validation. They earn it effortlessly simply by understanding the power of silence and the value of truly hearing others. Respect is not something that can be demanded or forced. It is something that is earned. Many believe that raising their voice, speaking over others, or asserting dominance in a conversation is the way to gain authority. But true respect is not won through volume or aggression. It is earned in the pauses, in the moments of restraint, and in the ability to remain composed even in the face of conflict. The people who command the greatest respect are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who know the power of timing, presence, and controlled silence. There is a common misconception that to be heard, one must be the most vocal person in the room. However, the reality is that shouting often signals insecurity, not strength. When someone constantly feels the need to talk over others or prove their authority through forceful words, it reveals a lack of confidence in their own position. On the other hand, those who pause before speaking, who carefully choose their words, and who do not react emotionally to every challenge, demonstrate control. This control, this ability to be intentional rather than reactive, is what earns lasting respect. Pausing before speaking shows confidence and intelligence. It indicates that a person is not just reacting impulsively, but is thinking critically about their response. People respect those who do not rush to speak, but instead take the time to process, understand, and deliver words that hold weight. In leadership, business, and personal relationships, those who take measured pauses rather than filling every silence with words are often seen as more thoughtful, more trustworthy, and more composed. Pauses also give others a chance to reflect. When someone constantly talks, their words begin to lose impact, but when someone speaks deliberately with pauses that allow others to absorb what is being said, their words carry more significance. This is why great speakers, negotiators, and leaders understand the power of silence. A well-timed pause before answering a question, before responding to criticism, or before making a decision can shift the entire energy of a conversation. It creates anticipation, it demands attention, and it signals that what is about to be said is worth listening to. Respect is also earned in how one responds to confrontation. When emotions run high, many people resort to shouting, interrupting, or aggressively defending their position. But the person who remains calm, who pauses instead of reacting, immediately shifts the power dynamic. A person who does not engage in shouting but instead listens, reflects, and responds with clarity is far more respected than someone who yells to make their point. People admire those who can remain composed under pressure because it demonstrates self-discipline and emotional intelligence. This principle applies not just in professional settings, but in personal interactions as well. Whether in relationships, friendships, or family dynamics, respect is built not through dominance, but through understanding. When one person takes the time to pause and listen rather than react emotionally, it fosters healthier communication and deeper respect. People are far more likely to respect and trust someone who makes them feel heard rather than someone who constantly talks over them. The ability to pause rather than shout is also a sign of true leadership. Great leaders do not need to raise their voices to establish authority. They lead by example, by their presence, and by their ability to listen and respond with wisdom. They know that a moment of silence can often be more powerful than 1,000 words. They understand that true respect comes not from forcing others to listen, but from earning their attention through composed and intentional speech. In the end, those who rely on shouting to gain respect may achieve temporary attention, but they rarely achieve lasting influence. True respect is built in the pauses, the moments of quiet confidence, the deliberate choices of when to speak and when to remain silent, and the ability to stay calm when others lose control. It is not the loudest voice that commands the most respect. It is the one that knows when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. In moments of conflict, tension, or frustration, the instinctive response is often to react immediately. When provoked, people feel the urge to defend themselves, retaliate, or prove their point, but true strength lies not in reacting impulsively, but in having the patience to outlast the provocation. Those who master patience gain a level of control that others do not have. They do not allow external situations or emotional triggers to dictate their actions. Instead, they choose their responses carefully, ensuring that they act with wisdom rather than emotion. Patience is a skill that sets strong individuals apart from those who are easily swayed by anger, frustration, or external pressures. When someone remains calm in the face of provocation, it unsettles those who expect a reaction. A person who is quick to anger or easily provoked can be manipulated, but a patient person cannot. This is why patience is often the most powerful response to conflict. It gives control back to the individual who possesses it. Consider any heated argument. When both sides escalate, raising their voices, cutting each other off, and refusing to listen, the argument turns into a cycle of defensiveness and aggression. But when one person refuses to engage in that energy, when they choose to stay calm, to listen, and to respond with thoughtfulness rather than emotion, it shifts the entire dynamic. It forces the other party to reflect, to slow down, and often to reconsider their own approach. Patience is not about passivity or weakness. It is not about ignoring problems or avoiding confrontation. It is about being intentional with responses, about understanding that immediate reactions are often driven by emotions rather than logic. A patient person does not allow themselves to be pulled into unnecessary battles. They choose which fights are worth their energy and which are simply distractions. In leadership, patience is a defining trait of those who inspire respect. Great leaders do not react emotionally to every challenge or criticism. They listen, observe, and respond only when necessary. They understand that not every situation requires an immediate answer, and that the best decisions often come after careful thought rather than impulsive action. A leader who lacks patience will struggle to maintain trust and stability, while one who demonstrates patience commands loyalty and admiration. In personal relationships, patience is the foundation of understanding and long-term harmony. Misunderstandings, disagreements, and frustrations are inevitable, but how they are handled determines the strength of the relationship. A person who reacts instantly with anger or defensiveness often damages connections, while someone who takes the time to listen, reflect, and respond with empathy builds deeper bonds. Patience also plays a crucial role in personal growth and success. Many of the greatest achievements in life require time, persistence, and the ability to endure setbacks without losing focus. Those who lack patience often give up too soon, while those who understand its value keep moving forward despite obstacles. Whether in building a career, developing a skill, or achieving a long-term goal, patience is what separates those who succeed from those who quit. Perhaps the greatest power of patience is that it allows for clarity. When provoked, emotions cloud judgment. People say things they do not mean, make decisions they later regret, and create unnecessary conflicts. But when patience is exercised, there is space to think, to see situations from multiple perspectives and to respond in ways that align with long-term goals rather than short-term emotions. In any situation, whether in a professional setting, a personal conflict, or a moment of frustration, patience always outlasts provocation. The one who remains patient holds the power. They control their emotions, their decisions, and ultimately the outcome of the situation. While others waste energy on unnecessary battles, the patient individual stays focused, composed, and in control. And in the end, they are the ones who truly win. Winning in any aspect of life, whether in leadership, business, relationships, or personal growth, is not about being the loudest, the most aggressive, or the most forceful. It is about strategy. Many people mistake volume for power, thinking that the one who speaks the loudest, argues the hardest, or asserts themselves the most will come out on top. But true victory is not achieved through noise. It is achieved through intelligence, patience, and precision. The most effective individuals do not rely on force. They rely on strategy. Strategy begins with observation. Those who rush into battles without understanding the situation often find themselves making costly mistakes. They react emotionally rather than thinking critically. But those who take the time to assess, to listen, and to understand the dynamics at play position themselves for success. They do not waste energy on unnecessary fights. They choose their battles wisely. Every great strategist knows that sometimes the best move is to wait, to gather information, and to strike only when the moment is right. In conversations and conflicts, volume often leads to chaos, not clarity. When two people argue by talking over each other, neither side is truly listening. The focus shifts from resolution to dominance. Who can be louder? Who can make the stronger point? Who can have the last word? But the person who remains composed, who listens more than they speak, and who responds with intention rather than impulse is the one who ultimately holds the power. They do not need to raise their voice to make an impact. Their words carry weight because they are measured, thoughtful, and timely. Leadership is one of the clearest examples of why strategy matters more than volume. A great leader does not demand respect by shouting orders or asserting authority through intimidation. Instead, they gain respect by making intelligent decisions, by leading with purpose, and by knowing when to act and when to step back. They understand that influence is not about overpowering others, but about guiding them in the right direction. They do not react to every challenge emotionally. They think ahead, anticipate obstacles, and approach situations with a clear plan. The same principle applies in business and negotiation. The most successful individuals do not win deals by talking the most or by forcing their way into opportunities. They win by understanding the needs of the other party, by positioning themselves effectively, and by making calculated moves that create long-term success. A skilled negotiator knows that silence can be more powerful than speech, that patience can lead to better outcomes than aggression, and that walking away at the right moment can be the best strategy of all. Even in personal relationships, strategy plays a role in resolving conflicts and maintaining harmony. Arguments fueled by emotion and volume rarely lead to positive outcomes. The people who know how to navigate conflict successfully are those who approach disagreements with a clear mind, who choose their words carefully, and who focus on solutions rather than winning the argument. The loudest person in the room is not always the one who is right. Often, it is the one who listens, who understands, and who acts with wisdom that finds the real resolution. Strategy also applies to personal growth and long-term success. Those who react to setbacks with frustration and impulsivity often burn out or give up too soon. But those who approach challenges with a strategic mindset, learning from failures, adjusting their approach, and staying focused on the bigger picture are the ones who ultimately achieve their goals. Success is not about pushing the hardest in the moment, but about consistently making the right choices over time. Ultimately, battles, whether in life, work, or personal challenges, are not won by those who shout the loudest, but by those who think the smartest. Volume may create momentary attention, but strategy creates lasting success. The most powerful individuals are not the ones who dominate conversations, force their opinions, or react emotionally to every challenge. They are the ones who remain composed, who assess before they act, and who understand that true victory comes not from making the most noise, but from making the best moves.